Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. The Elder Scrolls series is one of my favorite series of all time, so when the new remaster for arguably my favorite entry in the franchise, Oblivion, came out, I was on it fast. With updated graphics and some gameplay changes, it felt like a nice way to revisit an old favorite. I played through this on both Series X and PC, and I'd like to share my experiences with it in a review. First, I'd like to thank my YouTube channel members for their support, and there's a lot to dive into this game, so I'm going to break it into palatable pieces of what I think is important to talk about when talking about this remaster, and let's go ahead and hop into this one.
Take the amulet, give it to Joffrey. He alone knows where to find my last son. Find him and close shut the jaws of Oblivion.
So I had started this game on my Series X through Game Pass, which I paid for, but the day after release, which I streamed it the day it came out, Bethesda gifted me a free deluxe edition key for Steam. So I'm going to review both here as a combined review, as I mostly played on Xbox, but played a good amount on PC. It's similar, but the looks on PC are a bit stronger, and it's more of a control preference if you like a controller versus a mouse and keyboard. The mouse and keyboard does make menus and things a lot easier, but the controller works well too. The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion is a massive RPG set in the world of Tamriel, a fantasy realm populated by a diverse mix of fantasy races. Specifically, this game is set in the province of Cyrodiil, a central province that brings together all the races of Tamriel in one middle location. You can customize and build your character any way you want, and with a mix of classes. You can focus on blades, bows, stealth, magic, or a mix of those. With your character, you witness the death of the Emperor, and you must make sure his son, who was hidden from the world, gains the throne before the dark forces of Oblivion take over. This is only part of the game though, as it's huge and full of side quests and people to talk to. There are caves to dive in, things to steal, and guilds that give you quests. It never forces you in any direction, and as soon as you escape the prison, the world is yours for the taking, a perfect way to set up an RPG. But you might have already known all of this, and I think the core of Oblivion is an amazing game. But since this is a remaster, let's break down what has changed here, starting with what was improved.
Show me what you've got!
Good people, we have a winner! All hail the combatant from the blue team! Victor from the blue team.
Oblivion is one of my favorite games, and revisiting it reveals some flaws. They are easy to overlook, but they do exist, and this remaster attempts to rectify many of those issues, especially for people who are not accustomed to older game design. Some people might have played Skyrim and returned to Oblivion, and perhaps it was a bit off-putting. One of the most significant upgrades here is the visuals. The remaster is gorgeous. It's an all-around beautiful game. Oblivion is beautiful in its own right, especially in its environments. The bright greens and sunny days are aesthetically pleasing for the time, yet this one takes Cyrodiil to a whole new level. What I love about Cyrodiil is that it's a central province. It encompasses a diverse range of environments from the surrounding areas. From the Gold Coast architecture to the southwest, to the snowy areas near Skyrim to the north, there's a real variety here, and the way they made it dense is incredible. Areas are full of trees, and the way shadows play across everything is beautiful to behold. I always just loved exploring the world in the original, and here it makes it even more intriguing. Another element that's true for the original but holds just as well here is the cities and buildings. They never feel like copy and paste repeats. Every guild in every town feels and looks unique, full of small details and layouts, and they all have a charm to them. Every city has new layouts that make it fresh every time you move between them. The enhancements made to the graphics here further exemplify this and make this game beautiful to look at on both PC and console, making exploration just that much better. The other major upgrade here is the combat. Sword swings and hits feel much better here. In the original, it feels like you swing with no reaction from the enemies and just some light feedback. but here it feels a lot better. Enemies react to hits, and when swinging weapons, it feels like it has a lot more force to it. It feels a lot closer to Skyrim, which has a lot more modern combat feeling, and I do prefer that aspect. It feels clean and has just been overhauled, and I think it's a major improvement. Small UI updates are here to help streamline the game a bit. I like the new health bar setup on the bottom rather than the small bars on the left. The UI in general is just easier and cleaner to look at. I like that items highlight when you look at them for visual clarity. Having a run button is awesome, and the third-person view is greatly improved here. Aiming and movement feel like a real smooth game, and it's actually viable. In the original game, I thought third person was the messiest part of the experience, and I never used it. I always thought it was barely usable and the movement was weak, but here it's perfectly playable and fun. Generally though, I will say as far as major changes go, this is the best of it, but there are some weaker elements of this remaster.
What's the news from the other parts of Tamriel?
I hear the legions have been recalled from Fort Swamp Moth in Black Marsh, and many of the Argonian slaves have returned to their tribes.
I've heard many tales of Black Marsh. It sounds like a truly mysterious place.
Goodbye.
Good morning.
Good nothing.
One aspect they highlighted in the showcase for this game was improved character models and lip syncing, but I'm not convinced it's that much better. The original characters don't look good. They have a funky face and exhibit weird emotions, but I don't find these models to be particularly great either. Sometimes they look solid, but I ran into plenty of NPCs that looked botched, especially with their mouths. They open their mouths wide, and half of their face is just a giant mouth, and they'll make weird faces as well. And I get that Oblivion is all about exaggerated emotions, but on these new character models, it's another level of messy, especially on orcs, who get no justice with the face upgrades here. Another odd addition is momentum and movement. There's a ton of hills and valleys in the land here, and now they made it so that when you move uphill, you lose all speed. Depending on the incline, you will go extremely slow. Sure, it's realistic, but it's far too tedious. The constant slowing down is painful, and it made exploring a little more annoying than it needed to be. I guess this was implemented to slow the impact of sprinting on the game, but I'm not sure. It just felt pointless to me. And the next thing is a small nitpick, because I think this element works no matter what, but I prefer some of the lighting in the original over this one. I think the days are a lot brighter, and I think exteriors being so bright leads to a more inviting world. Compare that to the modern game, where the lighting and shadows are gorgeous, but it leads to a darker, more gloomy world. It's nice in its own way, but I do like the bright greens and bright sunny days that we got in the original. It also goes into interior lighting. The interiors are warmer in the original, where candles give off a really nice warm hue versus a more standardized interior lighting in the modern version. It's clean, but I felt like the original had a charm to it, though the new one still looks great. That's about it though, and those are some small things. I think some negatives are here, but nothing is remotely ruined. But that does mean that most of it stays the same.
Again? Hit me again. Again. Hit me again. Again. Hit me again.
You have just witnessed the impossible!
Oblivion looks like more than a remaster from the outset, with its incredibly updated look. But the core of the game is still there. Nothing is truly changed about the story, questing, or dialogue. If you love the story here, it's the same game, and I think that's the best way they could have handled this. Oblivion is full of charm. It's one of the most charming RPGs I've experienced. It's a bit odd at times, but it's lovely because of that. I love seeing all the characters walk up to each other, speak a few lines, and move on. Sure, the dialogue is a bit stilted, but like I said, it has a charm to it. It makes the world feel full. I love the small detail where the world reacts around you. These NPCs have schedules every day, and they'll move on whether you're there or not. It has a life to it that makes cities more dynamic than any other Elder Scrolls. The same applies to dialogue and conversations with characters. I find that all of the dialogue options you get and speaking to everyone there has so many unique things to say and unique people to talk to. Almost everyone has some type of dialogue, and there's not many characters where they just say one line and walk away. Everyone has something to them, and once again, it just makes the world feel full. That's the same with questing too. The quests have tons of options. There's so many quests where you can tackle the main goal in 3 or 4 different ways. They have multiple outcomes, and the guilds have numerous small tasks to complete, which provides a nice variety so it never gets tiring. For me, in an RPG, the story and world building are what is king. Additionally, the game is still a buggy release. Characters move weirdly, and things clip through walls, and the game reacts in odd ways. I was surprised they didn't fix a lot of this, but it wouldn't be Oblivion without some weirdness, though at times it can make the game a little more annoying, but I would say that's the only negative non-improvement here. I will say though, the fantastic world and odd characters that make up this game and make this a unique RPG world still holds up today, and I think it's the most essential part of making this game as great as it is. The biggest question is, who is this made for, and is it worth playing for them? Is it only for hardcore fans or just newcomers? And I feel like this game is for everyone, with one caveat. For those who played Oblivion back in the day and didn't like it for its quest structure, characters, and maybe didn't find the world intriguing, this game is not going to convince you otherwise. If you don't like the core that Oblivion gave you, this stays the same, and I don't think you'll be moved otherwise. Now, if you played this game and didn't like it for its archaic design, let's say the combat felt too clunky, the movement was too stiff, or the game looked too rough around the edges, this is meant for you. This is a nice modernization that doesn't feel like it's detracting from the core. The game feels and looks better from a modern standpoint, which is beneficial for those who struggle with playing older games. If you like the original game, like me, it's well worth playing. The charming world where characters move around and interact is still there. The great quest lines and world to explore are still retained. It just looks and feels better to play, which is a great thing. It has some odd upgrades that I do think make it feel a little awkward, but in my eyes, what is Oblivion without some awkwardness to it? If anything, this is a great reason to revisit a classic. It shines a new light on the game that you may have replayed over and over and still offers so much for you to do. It's an immersive RPG and is one of those games that even past the first playthrough gives you something new every time you play. It's one of the most charming games you can play, and this is a great way to replay it. If you've never played this game before, I highly recommend it. It's an immersive and deep RPG that feels unique today and has such a rich world to explore. If you love RPGs, you'll dig this one. And if you have Game Pass, it's 100% worth playing, but if you don't and you're wondering about that $50 price point, I really don't think that's a bad deal for just how much this game offers you. Oblivion offers hours of fun gameplay and is very replayable, and this remaster is now one of the best games you can play on Game Pass. I highly recommend checking this one out. But that wraps it up for this review. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, it really helps me on the algorithm. Subscribe to keep up with retro Xbox content, and check out my second channel, Camp Extras, for more content from me. And I'd like to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support. You really help out the channel. And I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.